take you over to my screen now. So we've got nolagold and Cloudfield. So Cloudfield's running Tiana Callista. Okay. This is like a fearsome deck, right? Yep. Yep. Definitely a fearsome decks. See Chronicler of Ruins and no Cursed Keeper. That's definitely a little weird to me, especially for 3 Chronicler of Ruin. It looks like Wraithcaller or Kindler. I mean, sure. I guess if you... I can kind of understand it because if you... It's kind of like a ladder with Callista, right? So Callista is going to bring back the strongest unit, and if you play Cursed Keeper, then your strongest unit is going to be a 4/4 for most of the game. Whereas if you don't play Chronicler or Cursed Keeper, then Wraithcaller is your strongest unit for the early game. Rekindler is your strongest unit in the mid game, and then Tiana is your strongest unit in the late game in terms of like Callista revival. So it feels, to me at least, a little bit greedy to like just cut the Cursed Keeper from the deck in order to try and get more Wraithcaller value off Callista in the mid game. I guess it's just like, obviously it's your best thing to bring back. It's, you know, if you don't have Rekindler, Tiana Crown Guard. I really like the Spectral Matron with the Tiana Crown Guard. I think that's an absolutely devastating combo. I love that, actually. But yeah, not a fan of not running the Curse Keepers. There's other reasons you could not run Curse Keeper. The obvious one to me is you want to revive Wraithcaller instead of the Escaped Abomination in the mid game, but I think you don't have Callista upgraded by the time that matters. There's definitely times where it can come up though, so I could see it. There's probably another reason as well, just like maybe Cloudfield's just not a fan of the card. But anyway, so for Cloudfield, we've got Callista, Tiana, see Ezreal Karma, and War Mother. And the War Mother is going to be Demacia? No, this is Demacia. Noxus? Yeah, okay, Darius Draven. Oh, geez. Oh, so it's like, it's Yetis. Or at least it plays Yetis. Okay, so it's a War Mother. Well, alright, War Mother Yetis is kind of a... You play one War Mother's call. Let's pump the brakes there on calling this a War Mother's deck. And then for nolagold... Nope, not that. We have Karina Veriza, also Draven Yetis, and Lucian. Is this standalone? Okay, so Lucian standalone. Lucian standalone is what I'll call this. This is interesting. So this is a little bit less straightforward than some of the European lists that we saw, so I kind of have to dive into these decks before I can actually figure out what I would ban. So kind of got this one down pat. I'm assuming this is just a pretty standard Ezreal Karma, nothing super crazy coming out here, seems about right. Darius, Tryndamere, War Mothers, only 2 Darius and 1 Tryndamere. Hearthguard's Assessor, Trapper. 2 Hearthguard seems a little weird to me. Just like looking at all of this. Bjerg, obviously you want Bjerg to be able to grab Trifarian. I guess like you just want to high roll. No, because Bjerg grabs Darius and Tryndamere as well. I was thinking like maybe you want Bjerg to have a higher chance of grabbing Trifarian Assessor, but I don't know. I really like Hearthguard, especially since you're running Overwhelm units like the Yeti, the Tryndamere, and the Darius. Like running this much Overwhelm, I would definitely like to see a Hearthguard, or at least like 3 Hearthguard. Not totally sure what I would cut for it. Maybe an Omen Hawk. The Omen Hawk seems a little weird to me here. I'm generally just like not a fan of this card in like late game decks. I would rather see, especially in War Mothers, like if you're going late game enough to go War Mothers, I'd like to see either Avarosan Sentries or Frostveil Archers. And then in the spells, this looks pretty standard. The Reckoning, yeah, I can understand that. War Mothers, this is kind of a weird deck, different from the Draven Yetis that we saw May Cactus with a couple minutes ago. And then we have Lucian Standalone. Yeah, the Deny deck, the Standalones, the Emerald Awakener. This is a little bit different than the one that I usually see. Generally, when I see standalone Ionia Demacia decks, it's not Lucian, it's Fiora. There's no Emerald Awakener or Senna. Instead, you get, like, you still run Solitary Monk and Shadow Assassin, but usually you also see, like, Kinku Lifeblade as, like, another target, and maybe even River Shaper. Then 3 Radiant Strike. Yeah, then it's just, like, a bunch of pump spells, right? It's, like, one guy, protect that one guy. I definitely don't... I don't know how I feel about Emerald Awakener as opposed to Kinku Lifeblade, because obviously he's better once you hit turn 10, but he's not elusive, which means you're not getting as much lifesteal down for free in the earlier turns. And also, you have so many 3-drops in this deck. Like, it's Zed, Senna, Shadow Assassin, Solitary Monk. All of these are 3-drops. The Emerald Awakener, you know, sure, it doesn't really matter of 4 versus 3 if it's like... You know, it's not like, oh, a 4-drop's better than a 3-drop if they're effectively doing the same thing, which they are here. So I don't hate it. It's definitely different than what you usually see. I guess I'll have to see it in action to decide how sold I am on it. I'm hoping this is normal Karina. No Atrocity coming out of this Karina. And it runs Ezreal. Okay, that makes sense then why there's no Atrocity. So at least Ezreal for Karina. I was always wondering if Ezreal was going to be something that the Karina decks were going to start putting in. It kind of makes sense. Like, you do play a bunch of targets. It seems like the best version of a Shadow Isle Ezreal deck. And I've seen, like, Shadow Isle Ezreal decks that are, like, not Karina. They just try to, like, barely cobble together enough targets with Static Shock. He's only running 2 Static Shock even instead of 3. That seems a little weird to me if you're running Ezreal. But Ezreal is probably just more of, like, a supplementary plan where there are some matchups where you can just get away with leaving Ezreal on board and constantly creating Mystic Shots and getting away with that. So it's possible that the Ezreal is just in there kind of for those matchups as opposed to, like, the premier win condition of the deck. That's still going to be, like, Karina Ladros and stuff like that. And then Draven Yetis. So this is a really interesting lineup from Nolagold. Definitely not what I was expecting to see in this tournament. Then Brittle Steel, Excited Brother, Calling Strike. Yep. Kato's definitely popped up a bit more since he got buffed to a 5/4. Oh, you're right. Yeah, there's no Ruination in this deck. That's definitely a little weird. Definitely a little weird. Because generally the power of this deck is just like how many board wipes they have between the Ruinations and the Karinas. So I guess he's just trying to control the early board better. We'll have to see it in the action. It's kind of hard for me to just, like, look at this list and evaluate it, how it's going to work replacing Ruinations with Ezreals, because they are extremely different cards. But yeah, good call out on the lack of board wipes. And then, yeah, this is a similar Yeti deck to the Draven one that we saw. This one runs Starlights here, though. And this one runs Katarina. Okay, I like the Katarina more. No Shunpo in this one, obviously. Bloodsworn Pledge main seems a little weird to me, but only a little bit. Brothers Bond, not something that I hate with the Trifarian Assessor. It's a tech that we saw in some of the Ashe Noxus decks previously, where, like, you would Brothers Bond because it's a permanent attack buff. It just makes your Assessor a lot better. So I like that Nolagold found the room to play that. I'll have to see exactly how it works at the Starlights here. This is a card that I'm not, like, super sold on, but I haven't really seen it in action much, so I could definitely change my mind about that. And there's enough spells that, like, you can just kind of, you know, get it off. 3 Brittle Steel. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, like, remnants of the old Ashe decks here with the Assessor, the Glory Seeker, the Brittle Steels. You're not going for, like, Ashe Rhymefang or anything like that. Going a little more board-centric with, like, House Spider Starlights here. Probably just, like, playing stuff like this to help supplement the Katarina plan, so we'll have to see that one in action. But I'm definitely a fan of running Katarina in the Yeti decks. I'm still a little iffy on the Draven. We saw it in Maycactus's deck as well. It didn't, like, blow me away. Maybe it's just a good value card, kind of like Thresh and Fiora, where, like, you don't necessarily have to run a Fiora deck. You can just run Fiora because she's a good 3/3 with Challenger, and, like, maybe a 3/3 quick attack is just good enough, especially one that can, like, supplement its own upgrade. The axes, you don't really have to, like, do anything with them. Like, maybe a 3/3 first strike is just good enough in a deck like this that you can just run it. So then we get into what would we ban? If I was Nolagold, and I have Karina, Draven Yeti, Lucian standalone, looking at this lineup, Karina, let me clarify because that's a very different thing. Karina Ezreal, Draven Yetis, Lucian standalone. I wrote War Mother, but it's really not War Mother. It's, let me kind of update that because it's really not War Mother. When you say War Mother, I think of Shadow Isle. So I'm like confusing myself. Overwhelm Yetis with War Mother. Because they're one War Mother control. This is not like a War Mother's Call deck. This is a deck with War Mother's Call in it. They're very different things. Okay, so if I'm nolagold looking at this lineup, I still haven't quite figured out how to assess Yeti decks. I've run into a lot of them on ladder, and I haven't been impressed by them, but it could just be because the singular deck that I was running had a good Yeti matchup. So I'm not willing to like completely write off Yetis. But it does mean that I have kind of a skewed perspective on the power level of them because I just happen to have been running decks with good matchups against them. The deck, of course, is not listed here. So Karina, Ezreal, Draven Yetis, Lucian Standalone, Kalista Tiana, Ezreal Karma, Overwhelm Yetis. Like Ezreal Karma is kind of like my knee-jerk ban. I feel like Ezreal Karma is like a really safe ban. It gets the PNZ and the Ionia off the table. Generally, like if you're looking at your opponent's lineup and you have like, oh, I have absolutely no idea what to ban, banning the Ionia deck is like a pretty safe bet. However, this Lucian Standalone is definitely like made to pick on Ionia decks. Like these are very powerful against decks with deny. The Will of Ionia can be a little annoying for you, but running things like the Emerald Awakener instead of Kinku Lifeblade gives you some cards that are a little bit more resilient to that. Because if you buff up a Kinku Lifeblade and then you have to replay it, you just have like this pitiful 2/2. Meanwhile, Emerald Awakener is going to at least come down as a 6/6 on the Enlightened turn, and the Elusive not really going to matter in this matchup. So I would understand not doing that. Kalista Tiana, I think I can deal with. I don't think... Because it's basically just a combo-y fearsome deck. And I think my lineup can deal with that. So I'm not actually, like, particularly interested in banning... Like, nothing sticks out to me as, like, okay, this is the ban. And I think because of that, I would take out the Ezreal Karma. Maybe I take out the Overwhelm Yetis. It kind of depends on how nolagold feels about the Yeti matchup. But I think, me personally, I would just go for the Ezreal Karma because I'm not super well versed on how to assess these matchups. So I'm just going to take the Ionia deck off the table, play it safe. And then if I'm Cloudfield, I think if I'm getting lost with like Kalista Tiana and Overwhelm Yetis, I look at this Karina Ezreal. I realize there's no Ruination. Suddenly, like I'm totally fine to like not ban that out because there's a couple considerations. You can basically either ban the Ionia deck because Ionia is very powerful, or you can ban the Shadow Isle deck because you're afraid of Ruination. So the thing about your favorite Oreo, the thing about that is both players ban at the same time. It's just a matter of like if I'm predicting what my opponent is going to ban, like if I think my opponent's going to ban my Ezreal Karma kind of thing. So both players ban at the same time, so I don't get to see them like, oh, they banned my Lucian, now I have to ban Karma Ezreal, or like, oh, they banned my Karma Ezreal, now I have to ban the Lucian kind of thing. So it is, yeah, it's the same time type deal. But anyway, so Cloudfield, if my Ezreal Karma's off the table, then I think I want to take out the Lucian Standalone. Because I don't really, like, nothing in my lineup stands out to me as, like, particularly good at dealing with that. The Kalista Tiana has one Vengeance, which really isn't going to get it done. I could really just get hard punished by a standalone deck here. Maybe not, though. There's not as much... because Emerald Awakener's not elusive, then, like, I can just chump block stuff. And, like, even if it's just, like, Senna, like, I'm still chump blocking things. So maybe I don't have to get rid of this. However, it is the Ionia deck. I don't have, like, a great matchup into this, right? So yeah, I think what I'm gonna lock in on here is if I was Cloudfield, I would ban the Lucian Standalone, and if I was nolagold, I would ban the Ezreal Karma. Nolagold, Cloudfield seems to have like a pretty weak lineup into nolagold, so like I'm really not mad at anything that nolagold bans. And then for Cloudfield, I could see the Karina getting banned as well. I don't know that Draven Yetis is like a deck that I want to ban. It does, like, leaving Karina Ezreal and Lucian Standalone just seems like it sounds terrifying, right? So like I think Draven Yetis is like the best deck that you could build with Noxus Freljord, but I don't think it's a deck that you ever really ban. So I would ban the Lucian Standalone and the Ezreal Karma. So let's get into the game. So let's see, we've got, oh god, this is annoying that they keep hovering over the stream. So we've got the Kalista combo deck and the Ezreal Karina. So it looks like my ban predictions could be holding strong here. I'll have to find out. Hapless Aristocrat starting off. A little hard to see his hand because of the watermark at the bottom. Yeah, Elise, a pretty good opener. This feels so much more crowded than the European stream, just like there's so much stuff on screen. But okay, yeah, you know, a pretty standard opener. Like, there's nothing really variations that could have come down here. I actually kind of want to talk about the lack of Cursed Keeper and how that's going to play into this matchup. Because Cursed Keeper can get pretty good against Ezreal decks or PNZ decks in general. It's a 4/4 is definitely hard to deal with if you have things that can turn on your own 1/1, then or turn on your own Cursed Keeper like the 3 Chronicler of Ruin. Then I think that's really good. So if we see and he floated turn 2 as well, so you have to think like if Cloudfield loses this matchup, there's a consideration that it could be due to a lack of Cursed Keepers. Now that's going to come out. That makes a lot of sense. You know, you want to deny the Ezreal target. Your opponent already discarded a card. I believe he discarded the second Get Excited, right? That's what I saw. It was 2 Get Excited. Yeah, Ezreal. This is one of those things I was talking about where, like, this is a matchup where, like, you can just kind of get down Ezreal and, like, have him keep attacking. Skitter is going to block that out, though. Let me just make sure there's no Grasp of the Undying in this deck. Yeah, okay, so there's no Grasp of the Undying in Cloudfield's deck. It's just like Withering Wail, 2 Withering Wail and 1 Vengeance, and then it's like Mist's Call, Vile Feast, single combat. So this is a matchup where like Ezreal gets a lot of value, not even so much as a win condition, but just as something to like sit there and constantly control the board by creating Mystic Shots, because there's really not a lot Cloudfield can do to deal with this, except for Thresh. Thresh will do it, but I like how I completely missed the Thresh. The problem is, like, because of the way the decks are lined up, Thresh is, like, all the way on the left, and, like, I already know it's a Callista deck, so I'm not, like, eyeing the champions. But it's actually going to take out the Skitterer, thanks to that blocking out the damage onto the Ezreal. Mystic Shot, not going to clean that up. But Nolagold's actually really low on cards. But Ezreal going to help take care of that Thresh. The Mystic Shot going to be able to line up the Withering Wail. Yeah, the reason to use Ezreal's Mystic Shot over the actual Mystic Shot is because you don't want the second Ezreal sitting in hand. Like, if this Ezreal dies, then you just want to have a Mystic Shot. You don't want to have Ezreal. You don't want to have another Ezreal. I'm not totally sure if that's correct. I guess we'll have to see how it lines up. Like, he has protection for the Ezreal. So, I mean, obviously, like, it comes up pretty immediately that it doesn't matter because either way, you know, you're getting through with, I'm like, you're using both Mystic Shots, but it's just a consideration of like, I would rather have a Mystic Shot than a second. Oh, that's unfortunate. The Mist's Call. Yeah, 3 Mist's Call in this deck. Gonna come in big. So that's gonna challenge out the Ezreal. Thermo Beam. Oh, you better go for an open attack, Cloudfield. And he doesn't. Yeah, wants to push through damage, plays into the Thermo Beam, and that's like something you always have to think about. If he has another Mist's Call, that's, you know, that's something. And of course, this guy sucks. No Wraithcaller for, or no Mist Wraith for you. Does just get the Callista down instead. But with Withering Wail and Ezreal, like, he's still gonna be able to clean up the board. So like, it's so like this is backbreaking, right? That you don't go for an open attack, you get punished by the Thermo Beam. You don't, like, you miss on the Wraithcaller. Obviously, like, in theory, this goes a lot better. The fact that you miss on the Wraithcaller is just like the shitty icing on the cake, because that Mist Wraith would actually come in like pretty big, because you're probably going to Mystic Shot to soften up the Callista into a Withering Wail, and then that 2/2 wouldn't die to that. You'd be at 10 instead of 12, and the, you know, the Mist Wraith, or the Mist Wraith would like stick around through the Withering Wail. So really unfortunate that Cloudfield like greeted out for this here Wraithcaller, and it didn't love him back, which means he did top deck either single combat or Tiana Crown Guard. We've already seen 1 single combat go down, so yeah, Nolagold has to be a little wary of the fact that like we are on the Tiana Crown Guard turn, and your opponent did top deck a Demacia card. There's one single combat down, which means it's more likely that they drew Tiana. And you honestly don't have a good answer for that. The Withering Wheel hasn't come down yet, so I want to like make note that like if this had worked out, he'd have a 2/2, which would make the Tiana all the better. But the problem with that consideration is that then Tiana's not on top of the deck because you created a Shadow Owl card. So my guess is that single combat is what was drawn, because I have to feel like Tiana would have been the play there. Or maybe he's just trying to set up for a better Tiana, like going open attack into Tiana next turn. Yeah, I guess if you just have a handful of units, like you might as well save the Tiana for next turn, because she only gets the effect once. So you want to have as big a board as possible when you do it. I think you had a pretty good window to punish your opponent there because of their weak board, but like they don't play Ruination, so you're pretty safe to just consistently go for this whenever you want. The concern is that now you're in the Karina turn, so if you open attack and then they take all the damage, or like they block and then you get Karina'd, then your Tiana can get blown wide open. So it looks like Cloudfield would rather play for lethal and like set up as big a board as possible and get like as much value as humanly possible off of this Tiana rather than like respect the Karina. Which is kind of scary because if you are hand tracking, your opponent's been hanging on to this card for the entire game. So it's not impossible for it to be Karina. It's actually pretty likely for it to be Karina. Because if it was a removal spell, they would have used it. Or they like, yeah, they probably would have used it already. Especially like on last turn. So you have to be thinking about that, you know? Obviously not going to get punished for it here, but yeah, this kind of sucks. Staring down, not lethal, but you know, you are expecting the Tiana Crown Guard. Your opponent spent the time to set up this bigger board. They didn't single combat your Ezreal or anything on attack, so like you basically at this point it's like 100% that your opponent has Tiana Crown Guard. I would find it very strange if he went for get excited now as opposed to doing it in combat. I don't think anything saves him here though, right? You can Withering Wail and block this. Yeah, you go to 5. Yeah, so nolagold's just dead. Okay, so that's even gonna upgrade the Callista. Okay, yeah, so that's game number 1 going the way of. It's game number 1 going the way of Cloudfield. We'll see. The players generally get into game again pretty quickly, but there were definitely some questionable decisions made that game. Okay, so the Draven Yetis means the Karmaheim, or the Karma. What was it? Oh, the Zed. It wasn't a Karma deck. It was the Zed standalone deck. Was banned. Oh, cool. I was right on the bans. Bringing that back up. It was I thought Ezreal Karma and Lucian standalone were going to get banned. Looks like I was right, since Cloudfield already won with Callista Tiana, is now on Overwhelm Yetis, and nolagold lost with Karina and switched over to Draven Yetis. So nice to see that I still got it in terms of ban predictions at least. Okay, this is a pretty aggressive opener. I'd like to see the... You know, I don't... Yeah, okay, so you put the House Spider here. You could play Trifarian Assessor and go for an open attack. I definitely don't hate that. Let me check to see if there's even a punish for that, you know? Because that could be like a really big play. Let me check this. Calling Strike, Elixir of Iron, Whirling Death, Reckoning. Yeah, there's absolutely no punish for Trifarian open attack, whereas now, yeah, Avaros and Trapper is exactly what I had in mind for, like, what comes down on turn 3. So I really would have preferred this into an open attack. Like, now you get value off the Brittle Steel to challenge this out, but, like, you could have just done that. I mean, I guess, like, you don't have good Brittle Steel value on the block. I can't say for certain how important the damage is in this matchup, but I would think that Brittle Steel is something that I would want to save for, like, larger units that have gotten softened up by my spiders and the like. And my opponent is also running their own Trifarian Glory Seekers. So, and yeah, I feel like I would have preferred a Trifarian Assessor open attack. Even if your opponent just like Brittle Steals to prevent 5 damage, that's better than them like Brittle Stealing to prevent, to like trade onto your guy, but Cloudfield's not actually running Brittle Steel. But that's in the past now. I'm not going to like harp on it too much. I've already kind of made my point. I would have preferred that attack. So far, everything else kind of going pretty standard. I'd expect him to Brittle Steel again and just like kill as many units with his Glory Seeker as he possibly can. Like, Brittle Steel can get value later on, but it's easier to just get it now. Especially since there's a chance that Bjerg hit Everest and Sentry to, like, buff up the deck. Like, Brittle Steel would only get value off of, like, softened up things. Alright, there's a Yeti. There's a 6/6 Yeti. Gonna stonewall that out. Does also have this... not Draven. It's not Draven, it's Whirling Death. There we go. Just Whirling Death. Katarina. Interesting. Katarina does kind of make it so that your opponent... Tall Tales? Okay, so another Yeti. I mean, like, your opponent still attacks, right? You don't have a lot of Blade's Edge value? Yeah, it's just going to go face. That makes sense. Yeah, there's no punish for, like, running out the Katarina here to just give you better open attacks. Plus, you still... It really doesn't make a difference in terms of spell mana, because you only have 2 spell mana. So if you didn't play Katarina, you'd have 3 spell mana. But you'd have to play her first so you don't get the open attack. I definitely prefer the open attack. So I like the Katarina coming out last turn. Blade's Edge not finding a lot of value, but, like, you know, even if you just throw one at your opponent's face, it's chill. And because there's no Brittle Steel in Cloudfield's deck, this Katarina is just going to, you know, pop off. Unless he Whirling Deaths it. But... nolagold has a Whirling Death of his own to take out that Yeti. Let me check for Culling Strikes. Yeah, 2 Culling Strike in Cloudfield's deck. So, like, this Katarina's not, like, guaranteed to go off. There's a pretty high chance of it. It's a little awkward because, like, the removal that gets lined up onto Katarina really only gets lined up onto Katarina, like the Culling Strike and stuff, but you have to assume that he would have gone for Culling Strike before he went for Whirling Death. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of cheeky. That might be a little bit too cheeky for me. So what's going to happen is Katarina is going to upgrade. This is going to take 3. The 5 is still going to trade onto it. I'm trying to think of, like, what the purpose was. Oh, maybe he was playing around Elixir of Iron. It's got to be Elixir of Iron, right? Yeah, okay, there's 3 Elixir of Iron. All right, so that's the reason. If that looks a little weird, he was playing around Elixir of Iron because if you go for... here, let me actually back it up because that's kind of the point of VOD reviews is that you can do that. So if he goes for this onto this, then Elixir of Iron still kills the Katarina. Doing the Whirling Death here is just playing around that. And he's already basically told you that he doesn't have Culling Strike, or you have to assume Culling Strike would have come down first, unless he's trying to bait out your Whirling Death on a bad play. But yeah, the point being, if this looks weird to you, it's Elixir of Iron is the reason. Elixir of +2. So yeah, that's glad I was able to reason that out. Let's jump forward 30 seconds. Looks like nolagold going to replay the Katarina, and that's lethal. So yeah, definitely Well played there. Wait, hold on. Did I miss something? Didn't he have like more mana? Yeah, he had 4 mana. Okay. Sorry, I want to see what happened with this 4 mana. Oh, it was just an Ancient Yeti. Okay. So yeah, then we'll get into game number 3 here. Yeah, I like that I you know have an opportunity to like catch myself and like it's different than a live cast where like I say something and then I just look stupid, whereas here I can like catch myself and then rewind and figure it out. Because like generally when you look at a play you have to think like, okay, why would they do that? And then like it's nice to have the deck list next to me to be able to go back and look and be like, okay, well like this is why they would have done it. And the answer is Elixir of Iron. I feel like a lot of weird plays are just answered by Elixir of Iron. I was casting one of my friends in his tournament run over the weekend. He didn't do particularly well, so I didn't like upload the VODs, but yeah, there was like a really weird looking play that he made, and it was like just all in the name of playing around Elixir of Iron. Honestly, just like one of the best spells in the game right now. Previously we were in a very like damage based removal format, and I feel like Elusive started to kind of pick back up because they had Elixir of Iron and things like that. Yep, Yeti Yearling. Gonna be Karina versus the War Mother's Yetis to finish us off here. This is a big matchup where the lack of Ruination could play against nolagold. There's no Karina in his hand either. Getting stuck on the double Ezreal again, but with Ezreal being a supplementary win condition, and there not being any challengers in this deck aside from the Trifarian Glory Seeker, which will just trade onto the Ezreal, as well as like you're gonna have Ezreal's Mystic Shot and like this to take care of the Trifarian Glory Seeker if she comes down. Obviously you don't want to play Ezreal this turn because if you attack you still don't get the Mystic Shot. Is this Karina deck playing Progress Day? No, it is not. There's no Progress Day either. His deck list is on the side. No, it's not. This is something else. This is Draven something? Yeah, somehow like a Jinx Draven deck got loaded into his deck tray for some reason. It's not the Karina deck. But no, this deck's not playing Progress Day. It's not playing Ruination. Could just get down Ezreal here. I don't hate it. If your opponent Glory Seekers, you can Vile Feast it, and then if they Elixir of Iron, you can Mystic Shot it. And that's really the only way to actually get the Ezreal off the board. You're going to take some damage here, unless you want to, like, Grasp. You might even, yeah, I don't hate, like, Vile Feast onto either the 1/1 or the Trapper, and then blocking the Yeti with that. If you do it onto the Trapper, it sets up for a Mystic Shot onto it, whereas this can just get blocked by Elise anyway. So I'm not crazy about a Vile Feast here. I think I'd prefer the Vile Feast here. Get this down to 2. Yeah, it looks like that is going to be the play that nolagold goes for. Definitely like that a little bit more, especially since you have so many Mystic Shots in hand. And then you're going to use that to block the Yeti. I guess the only real question is, do you Mystic Shot this straight away? Tall Tale's going to make another Yeti. That's a lot of Yetis. We are many, many turns away from Karina. We're 2 turns away from Ruination, but as I said before, no Ruination in this Karina deck. No Ruination. No Ruination. So that, like, this is definitely the matchup where it's going to, like, pay dividends. It's, like, I want to be clear. I don't hate the no Ruination. I get it. Ruination has a lot of bad matchups. There are a lot of matchups where you just die with multiple Ruination in hand and you feel like a goofball. But this is one of the matchups where the card is very, very good. We saw in the European finals when May Cactus was playing, there were a few times where, like, if her opponent had Ruination, or Pearson, I believe was her opponent. If Pearson had Ruination, like, the game could have gotten blown wide open just because of her weak hand. And that's the thing about these Yeti decks is, like, you have to play a lot of supplementary spells, so you have a lot of opportunities for weak hands and to gas out if your opponent can deal with your board. The advantage of these decks is that your board is extremely difficult to deal with because it's made of 5/5s. Ruination, of course, doesn't care about this. There's a non-zero chance that Karina doesn't even clear these boards, and as the Avaros and Hearthguards, and I believe he's playing Omen Hawk. He is playing Omen Hawk. As the Karinas and the Omen Hawks continue to come down, it gets harder and harder for Karina herself to get value. And then Calling Strike going to go onto the Ezreal. Glimpse Beyond going to negate the Calling Strike. All right, so we get Vile Feast and Skitterer. We traded the Elise for the Avarosan Sentry, which I definitely understand Elise isn't getting any more value, whereas the Mystic Shots being Ezreal's can get value. This is definitely not looking great for nolagold. Is probably going to have to go for like a Vile Feast just to get another blocker out. I think if he does go for Vile Feast, I like it onto this 5/4 so that you can block it and Mystic Shot it. I kind of like Skitterer as well because you can Skitterer to block this one. And that sets up this is a 2, this is a 2, which lets you play Ezreal and attack into it. Okay, not going for the open Vile Feast. So it will be Darius coming down now, and that is spooky. Skitterer gets to come down. You have to manage your life total very carefully now. There's the open attacks. Or not open attacks, rather. I'm just so used to saying open attacks. So you can let one attack go. Thank goodness that Darius doesn't evolve here. Because if Darius ever evolves and is unblocked, he just kills you. He wouldn't here because he'd only be 9, but... Is it going to be double Mystic Shot onto this 5/4? Doesn't have mana for Grasp and another spell and would need 2. Is he going to Mystic Shot the Bjerg? You would definitely Mystic Shot the Yeti before you Mystic Shot the Bjerg. So if you're Mystic Shotting the Bjerg, I assume you're Mystic Shotting both. There is... So something that you could have done... Let me pause this real quick because it's a little complicated. So what you could do is, instead of Mystic Shotting, you don't block with the Ezreal. You pull this back onto the bench. You don't block with it. You double Vile Feast this. So you play both of these here. And that puts you up to 17. And then this hits, you go to 11. Then Darius hits, you go to 6. And that gives you 2 targets of the Ezreal. This survives as a 4/2. This survives as a 4/2. You still have the Ezreal. Ezreal gets to attack next turn, create a Mystic Shot. You have 2 Mystic Shots. So you get 3 Mystic Shot total. 3 Mystic Shot after the Ezreal attacks. And then you still have Grasp of the Undying. So your 3 Mystic Shots go like, kill this with Mystic Shot, kill this with Mystic Shot, Mystic Shot Grasp the Darius on a following turn. And that also puts you up to 9. It gets a little scary because your opponent does still have another Darius and a Tryndamere. You get that. So it can get a little dicey, but I think, you know, I don't know if it's the correct play. It's definitely like a consideration that I would have liked to at least seen. Because this just, well, I mean, we'll see how this plays out. So you Mystic Shot there, you lose the Ezreal. You still have to play... Oh, that's right, Ezreal survives because this is a 2/2. Does that change the consideration at all? Because my thing was like, well, honestly, I kind of forgot that Ezreal would survive this attack. I'm not sure how much that changes. I think he's at the same, yeah, he's at the same life total that he would have been at. Okay, so you actually still could have blocked with the Ezreal, which means you'd be at a higher life total than what I'd even previously mentioned. But yeah, rather, I guess the real consideration is like, rather than Mystic Shot, I would have liked to see the double Vile Feast. It's looking like it's not actually going to make too much of a difference since the Ezreal survives the block. Because my big thing was, my play was better if Ezreal doesn't survive the block, but probably would have made that then. Yeah, maybe I was just talking out of my ass there, because I did. I'm not gonna lie, I did forget that the Ezreal was gonna survive. So yeah, I don't think my thing actually matters as much now that I'm like looking at this living Ezreal. Because he's left with just as many Mystic Shots as I said he would be. The difference is he still hasn't used one of these Vile Feasts. Yeah, it's gonna be Mystic Shot and Grasp onto the Darius. I actually don't know how close this Ezreal is to evolution. Get excited? Can you discard Ladros? Or do you just lose the game? I feel like you're so far off of winning the game with this Ezreal if you don't Ladros. Like, almost certainly, like, too far off of winning the game if you don't Ladros. But the 5/5 is very resilient to this Ezreal deck. I can see the appeal. I'm a fan. I'm not gonna lie. The more I'm watching it, the more I'm a fan of these Ezreal decks, or these Yeti decks rather. It's gonna be Mystic Shot. Lines that up for Vile Feast. Yeah, I don't hate waiting to kill the Darius because it entices your opponent to go for an open attack. The awkward part is that you pumped all the resources into killing a Yeti that was the same HP instead of the Darius. So if your opponent has like Elixir of Iron or something, I would have rather them had the Yeti instead of the Darius. I guess the difference is the Darius just entices them more into an open attack. So you block, you kill this. You could Vengeance if you don't want to deal with the Elixir of Iron. You could Grasp of the Undying and then get excited if the Elixir of Iron comes out. You lose the double Elixir of Iron, which, like, it's not impossible for your opponent to have that, but it's pretty unlikely, I would say. Like, I probably wouldn't play around double Elixir. But I do think you need to save this Ladros. Your opponent's not playing any, like, attack. Actually, was he playing Brothers Bond? Is this the one that was playing Brothers Bond? Okay, no. Cloudfield is not running Brothers Bond. It was nolagold who was playing Brothers Bond. So there's no, like, Brothers Bond that you have to worry about or anything like that. So it is going to be the Grasp onto the Darius. We'll have to see if... Oop. Yeah, there's the Elixir. That kind of sucks because now you have to discard either Vengeance or Ladros. But if you discard Ladros, I don't think you win. But if you discard Vengeance, then you're out of spells, so the Ezreal's like less impactful. The difference then is that Ezreal will create his own Mystic Shot, at least. So Ladros cuts your opponent in half. Opponent goes down to 8. You attack with Ezreal, they go to 6. You Mystic Shot, they go to 4. Ezreal effect puts them at 2. So you just need to draw a spell, and Ladros wins you the game. Oh, you lost your Ezreal. Never mind. Wait, where do you lose? Oh yeah, Ezreal got challenged. Okay. But you're at a healthy life total. I think I would have just preferred the Vengeance onto the Darius. I don't know if that would have upgraded him. Tryndamere sucks here because like it stonewalls the attack. Because if you attack, he gets a 9/9. Very interesting. Like I don't think the Grasp get excited play was wrong. I just think I would have gone for the Vengeance. But if Ezreal was at 6 out of 8, then I can understand why you went for the Grasp to get out the Elixir of Iron and then that. But personally, because if I actually you could Vengeance the Darius and then get excited the Trifarian Assessor and then your Ezreal lives. You discard the Grasp, you'd be at 7, which doesn't really make a difference, I think. Well, let me back this up, actually, because I am kind of curious. So yeah, if you go Vengeance onto Darius, and get excited onto this, then you still get out 2 targets. Elixir of Iron doesn't protect this. You lose the Grasp because you have to discard it to get excited. Because I think we've established that you need to hang on to Ladros. So you get a 7. This lives. And then it comes up again where I was saying that you put your opponent at 2, all you have to do is top deck a spell. I think that's how I would have liked to see that turn played. Obviously, like, the grasp... Well, so the grasp was better if you don't think there's a or if you don't think there's an Elixir of Iron, but, like, you just let your Ezreal die. And I think I would have rather fought for the Ezreal a little bit. Yeah, I don't think you ever play around double Elixir in that scenario. I don't think you ever beat double Elixir in that scenario. Looks like he is gonna attack with Ladros, which would be weird. Like, Ladros just gets blocked by this for free. And then this upgrades and Ladros dies and you don't have a blocker and you just Karina could be big. Please go for an... Oh, he didn't go for an open attack. Hold on. Let me pause this real quick. What happens if you just open attack? Because I cannot believe that this man didn't open attack. So, if you open attack, this gets blocked. You push 3, 6, 7, 2, 9? Okay. I can understand not open attacking then. I just had to, like... I had to run that math real quick. Okay, so... Alright, ignore me. It's fine to play a Darius. Karina is literally the only top deck. Hits 4 spells. Do you still lose here? Because Darius doesn't die. Tryndamere becomes a 9/9. So that's 9 over 6 is 3. 10 over 6 is... Okay, so 7 damage. Yeah, it's pretty... I never rely on Karina hitting 5. I think Karina will consistently hit 4. But okay, I understand the... Definitely... Looking at Cloudfield's list, I'm trying to see... Obviously, your opponent like doesn't have anything else. They're only on 4 mana. What is in your hand that you didn't play anything? Whirling Death? Oh, is he... If he goes for Whirling Death and like gets Mystic Shotted, that's gonna suck big time for him. And he has a lot of spells in hand. Yeah, there's Whirling Death. So yeah, Mystic Shot onto the Darius. Oh my gosh. I was trying to figure out how nolagold came back from this. Because, like, obviously, like, I can see the results. I already know who won and whatnot. But, like, I could not for the life of me figure out how it happened. So I was actually very excited to see how that's how that works out. Jesus. Because, like, he doesn't have any units in hand. He's basically saying that there's nothing in his hand that he wouldn't be able to play here except for Avaros and Hearthguard. So his hand's probably, like... There are a lot of dead cards in Cloudfield's deck in this matchup. There's Warmother's Call, there's 2 Reckoning. Tall Tales wouldn't do anything here. Calling Strike wouldn't do anything here. Elixir of Iron would blow the game wide open. Hold on, would I have lost the game? So... If you had done the Vengeance Protect the Ezreal, then you would still have Elixir of Iron here. But I'd still have Ezreal, so maybe it doesn't matter. It's kind of hard to like go back and figure out if protecting the Ezreal would have lost me the game. So yeah, your opponent goes to 2. You have the attack. They have to play a unit, and he could have a lot of dead cards here. Warmother's Call. Ooh, that's dicey. Don't hit an Omen Hawk. Don't hit an Omen Hawk. Okay, it hit a Yeti. I was so ready for that Omen Hawk, dude. God, Glimpse Beyond even. Yeah, you can just take that out and then Glimpse Beyond, I think. There's no 1 mana spell that's going to kill you, so you might as well kill the Yeti first, not put yourself in danger. And yeah, you can just Glimpse Beyond Ladros next turn, depending on what your opponent does. Yeah, I actually think I like the Glimpse Beyond here. If your opponent like plays a guy and then attacks, like if your opponent plays a guy, then you don't want to get, there's a potential that you don't want to play this because then they just get to hit you. But I don't think there's anything in his deck that can actually kill him. I would have been fine with this here. Oh, that's right. There's Warmother's Call going. God, let me use Brain. Oh, never mind. Game just ends. Ezreal. You can see nolagold kind of popping off there. Yeah, that's gonna be Ezreal into the get excited, or not into the get excited, into the glimpse beyond. All right, so that's, Jesus, what a game. Yeah, I know you can block and play it. I was just interested in killing my opponent a little bit faster. It was because if they don't attack, because like with this board, you wouldn't attack, right? Because then I just gotta like glimpse beyond the Ladros. Here, let me explain what I'm talking about. Let me back up 10 seconds. So if you have this board, then I can't glimpse beyond the Ladros, and you're not gonna attack. You're not gonna attack, because then I just block and replay this. You push through 3 damage. I get a 4. That's nothing. You get a 1. Then I attack with Ladros. You have to block it. You attack. I block it again. Maybe the War Mother's Call, like, you can get enough value, but if you like, basically because you have this board, I can't just like ignore the Ezreal. Let's say we didn't top deck Ezreal. Trying to figure out how this would have worked out. So yeah, if I just glimpse beyond the Ladros last turn, then I get to replay him this turn. You could go with an open attack on whatever you get off of War Mother's Call, but there's nothing left in the deck because both Darius and the Tryndamere are dead. There's nothing left in the deck. That's right, there's only 1 Tryndamere in this deck, and 2 Darius. So there's nothing in the deck that kills me on an open attack. So I'm actually good to just like play the Ladros after the fact. And then I have 3 cards going into this turn, which gives me a better chance of winning the game since my opponent's at 1. I still have like Mystic Shots and Get Exciteds. Whereas here, I can't glimpse beyond because then my opponent gets to attack and kill me because they played a guy. So yeah, I mean, it obviously doesn't end up mattering. I think it's pretty minimal on whether or not it would have made a difference anyway. But yeah, nolagold gonna top deck the Ezreal, gonna kill his opponent with this glimpse beyond. I feel like there was a lot of plays that I took issue with over the course of the series. I think I made my point on all of them, though. But yeah, that's going to be nolagold picking that one up.